All right, so thinking a little bit about efficiency and welfare analysis. Let's back up a little bit from trade here. So up here we would have an economy. Let's assume this is a perfect world. So we were in principle number 6 here, where markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity if the world is perfect. Could we do better than this? Right now we have an intersection of the demand curve and the supply curve, and that intersection shows that the marginal benefit is in fact equal to the marginal cost. And in a perfect world, the marginal benefit and the marginal cost shown by consumers and producers, values and cost structures and these kinds of things are in fact the true cost. And therefore, this will be an efficient outcome. So we would have that we have consumer surplus here, the area below the demand curve and above the price consumers pay. And we'll have producer surplus right here, the area above the supply curve and below the price that producers receive. Now, if we take the same kind of argument to international trade, we can see here that it would look like when the country was not trading with anybody else, the marginal benefit would be equal to the marginal cost given the firm's own cost structure within the country. But when they are faced or when they have an opportunity to trade with other firms who have a more efficient cost structure, and therefore their terms of trade or the price here is going to be lower, we could actually make the country better off. So again, whether you are a closed economy, markets will get to your most efficient outcome. And if you open up a trade, you can actually get even better off, and it will still be efficient. We still, in both these cases, we're in a perfect world. If we decide to use a government intervention in a perfect world, what would happen then? Well, here, for example, if we put a tax on this perfect country, then, the tax would give us that the marginal cost is going to increase by the amount of the tax. So you're going to be shifting this supply curve up or decrease supply a little bit. At that new equilibrium, you're going to have a price paid by the consumers that is higher than it used to be. And the price received by the producers is going to be lower than it used to be. The government is going to collect some tax revenue, which is good, because they get a chunk of the loss in consumer surplus and the loss in producer surplus. But despite the fact that government gets something in this deal, they're going to be part of this loss in consumer and producer surplus that nobody gets, and that's what we call, this triangle right there is what we call deadweight loss. So in a perfect world, taxes are inefficient. We might still want to have taxes because of equity reasons, but they are inefficient. Now, if we do the same thing here, so if the government comes into this market for foreign goods and they put a tax, well, a tax on foreign produced goods is called a tariff, an import tariff. So if we put an import tariff over here, then the price that we pay for imports is going to increase. And we're going to have, of course, a reduction in imports. It used to be this many, and now it will only be this many imports. So consumers are going to have to pay a lot more for the imports, and they're going to consume less than they used to. So there's a big loss in consumer surplus here. But, part of that loss in consumer surplus is going to go to domestic producers who now will be able to produce more and sell their goods for a higher price than they used to. Part of that loss in consumer surplus is going to go to the government in the form of tax revenue. But here again, we see there's a part of the consumer surplus that nobody gets. Now it shows up in two small triangles right there. And that loss in consumer surplus that nobody gets is what we call deadweight loss. What about this number 7 then here over? It seems like sometimes the government can help. But here we show that the government, when they intervene, it makes things worse up. They reduce efficiency. When would the economy be able to be helped by the government? Well, the answer is, of course, when we have market failures or we have an imperfect world. If you have an imperfect world, maybe I'll draw it over here. in an imperfect world, the demand curve is still giving us the marginal benefit, sorry. But now the supply curve is actually only giving us the private cost, the marginal private cost. It does not take into account some externalities that might exist as we produce this good. If we want to look at a negative externality, maybe this is pollution, for example, then we can see that the marginal social cost is greater than the marginal private cost, because the true cost of society is not only what it costs the firms to produce the good. There's also a marginal external cost associated with the pollution, for example. So therefore, when a firm makes their decision, which is setting their marginal private cost equal to the marginal benefit, they will actually produce too much. So we would be producing too much if we allow the firms to act on their own self-interest. Remember here, we're going back to people responding to incentives. We think about firms, or at least the owners of firms, they're going to respond to their incentives. Their incentive is to set, as long as the marginal benefit is greater than marginal private cost, they're going to keep producing this good. And they keep producing it and keep producing it. And as they do, the marginal benefit decreases, the marginal private cost increases. So at some point, they're going to stop producing that good. And their individually efficient outcome will be when the marginal benefit equals the marginal cost, which is right here. But, like we said before, sometimes individuals' decisions are not in the interest of the entire society. And this is what we have here. With a negative externality, sometimes individual actions add up to something that's not quite in the interest of the entire society. So, in this case, we have an external cost associated with this decision. We need a government to come in and help. Now, if we did the same thing as we did over here, that is, we take a tax, we can put a tax, and we do it just right. We can shift up the firms, the private cost curve, and we therefore will have that consumers will have to pay a higher price, producers will receive a lower quantity, and the loss in consumer surplus and loss in producer surplus, some of that goes to the government, but we're going to have an inefficiency like we did before. But importantly, now we get something in return. So when we have this inefficiency, we also gain a loss in pollution, which is a good thing. That is, we have less pollution, and therefore the economy is more efficient, it's better off. So we can actually gain, and if we make everything work out, and we can do this more carefully in some other situation, we can see that the government actually made this economy more efficient. Again, showing principle number 7, that sometimes the government can actually help and improve on the market outcome. All right, this is what we have done so far, and now I just run through it very quickly. Hopefully it helped a little bit.